Welcome to an episode of Behind the Scenes, a weekly program unveiling the biggest political developments in Somali politics. I'm Sultan Mohammed, your host and producer here on HORUFADHI Media. On this week's program, hours before the conference statement, Hargeisa decides to launch an attack on the city of Laascaanood to curtail any release to no avail. 2 days on, over 60 people have been killed, including women and children, as Hargeisa attempts to forcefully impose its will on the SSC region. So why is this happening now, and what has the federal government said about the current developments in the north of the country? These are the topics on the program today. We hope you find this program very informative. Please like, share, and for similar content, do subscribe to HORUFADHI Media. Also, do subscribe to HORUFADHI Media Group second channel, known as HORUFADHI TV, where you are currently watching this program, and where you can find other exclusive programs, such as Mahahir Salah, among others. And last but not least, do follow myself, Sultan Mohammed, Suleiman Hashi, Yasin Abdi, and the wider HORUFADHI Media team on our social media platforms that should appear on the screen any moment. Let's get straight into it. The fighting in the city of Laascaanood entered its second day on Tuesday, as reports from the town indicate fighting has intensified between the separatist forces and the pro-union local fighters of the SSC region. Two doctors at the main hospital in Laascaanood confirmed to Reuters news agency that at least 58 people were brought into the main hospital since Monday morning, and current statistics put forth by the doctors indicate that at least 24 people have been killed on the second day of fighting alone, with at least 53 people injured. Traditional elders have confirmed to media outlets that Somaliland forces have attacked public and private property, including residential homes, schools, as well as hospitals and other medical institutions, which saw scores of individuals and civilians being killed. Local media in Seoul confirmed that a mortar strike on Monday killed 7 members of one family, including children, which has been a common harrowing story coming out of Laascaanood over the past month. Fighting broke out yesterday, only hours before a scheduled press conference in which traditional elders were to outline the results of a 10-day summit held in Laascaanood to decide the future of the SSC region. Reports indicate Somaliland forces attacked the city from the east, an area hosting traditional SSC elders including Garaad Abdullahi Garaad Saleban and Ugaas Mohammed Ugaas Abdullahi, who are senior critics of Somaliland and its current incumbent leader Musa Bihi Abdi. Now, in retaliation, unconfirmed reports indicate the SSC local fighters overran Hamdi Hotel, a hotel in the center of the city that was utilized by Somaliland officials that were stationed in the city up until this point. Videos emerged online of local fighters entering the hotel and displaying what was left behind by officials as they fled. Currently, the fighting is ongoing around the Mount Syed, a mountain or hill located on the outer skirts of the city. While regular, accurate updates of the battle remain scarce, mixed reports have been released by both sides, with Somaliland claiming to have pushed SSC fighters out, whereas the SSC leaders claiming to have pushed Somaliland fighters out of the mountain. Now, irrespective, it seems as though this will be a bloody war, as the incumbent president of the self-declared Somaliland region, a man that has violently oppressed dozens of people in other parts of Somaliland region during protests against illegal term extension last year, continues to use brutal force to ensure his iron fist rule across the region. So the main question is, why has Somaliland decided to attack now? Indeed, the recent summit held by the traditional elders of the SSC region has been detrimental to Somaliland, to say the least. You see, Somaliland claims the entirety of what the British Empire claimed to be the British Somaliland Protectorate. The narrative being pushed by the secessionist Somali administration for the past few decades has been an image of unity in the region that is ready to form an independent state, separate from the rest of the Somali Republic. Now, following the recent violence in Laascaanood, following the assassination of a young politician in December 2022, Somaliland was forced out of the region after killing 20 unarmed protesters in response to calls by traditional elders of the region for an open investigation and accountability to the endless assassinations that are ongoing in the city. One has to understand that there have been over 100 unsolved assassinations in Laascaanood since 2009. And let's take a look at high-profile assassinations that have taken place in the region since 2020 alone. That's only 3 years ago. So in March 2020, the head of the court of Seoul, Hassan Sheikh, was killed when a bomb was attached to his vehicle. Within the same month, the head of intelligence in Seoul was killed while he travelled to his home. In July 2021, the head of Seoul Electoral Commission, Abdullahi Labagole, was killed as he entered his home. The following month, local MP and chairman of the Wadani party in Seoul, Abdurrazak Ahmed Elmi, was killed as he entered his home in Laascaanood. In March 2022, another local MP, Zakaria Garbayare, survived an assassination attempt, sustaining injuries. Within the same month again, the chairman of the Seoul Contractual Committee, Mohammed Abdullahi Farah, was killed by unidentified gunmen in the center of Laascaanood. In May 2022, former mayor of Laascaanood, Abdulaziz Hussein, narrowly escaped an attempt on his life. And only a few weeks later, former local MP and chairman of the U'id party in Seoul, Mohammed Aflahar, was killed as he entered his home. The most recently, in December 2022, an official of the Sol Wadani Party, Abdul Fattah Abdullah Hadrawi, was murdered in the city, which ultimately sparked the current unrest. Now, if we add on the fact that the SSC leaders held conferences in Jigjiga and Mogadishu over the past 2 years in an effort to create a federal state for the region, it was clear to Somaliland's regime that whatever outcomes that comes out of this meeting will be a final nail in the coffin for Somaliland's separatist agenda. You see, if the SSC region declared their region autonomous and is recognized by the federal government in Mogadishu as a federal member state, this would remove a third of the territory or the area Somaliland currently claims. Furthermore, it leads to other tribes and clans in the region to question their presence in a collapsing project that was initially designed to sustain temporary peace in a war-torn country, which was ultimately hijacked for a secessionist agenda. Ultimately, knowing its existence was at stake, the Somaliland regime decided to go on an all-out war against the people of the region, which resulted in death and destruction. Now, before we delve into Somaliland's actual official position on the situation, let's take a look at the recent statement released by traditional elders from the SSC region following the summit which sparked this battle in the first place. So firstly, the SSC elders accused Hargeisa of a, I quote, genocidal agenda against the SSC region due to the high volume of assassinations against senior figures within society that remained unsolved since 2009. The SSC elders also accused Somaliland of engaging in an economic blockade against the region, denying it any investment or development projects from abroad to reach the city and Sol in general. The SSC has also been and will never be part of any secessionist agenda, they said, which the elders claim Somaliland is forcing upon the people of the region against any international law or norms. They also are utilising Article 48, Section 2 of the Somali Provisional Constitution, saying that the SSC people have asked the federal government to govern the region until a constitution is complete. They've also appointed a 45-member committee to oversee the governing of the region. And finally, the SSC has said they are open for talks with Somaliland as long as Somaliland forces withdraw from the town. Now, what is clear from this statement is that the people in the region of SSC consider themselves part of a federal republic of Somalia and do not believe or adhere to any secessionist agenda being pushed by Hargeisa. They've also made it clear that they have every right under Somali law to seek a different status within the Somali Republic. Many have become a new federal member state. For example, look at Galmudug or Hirshabelle. These regions weren't federal member states just 10 years ago, and today they are. So surely the SSC region or Khartoum can equally become a federal member state as much as Galmudug or Hirshabelle have been. Finally, the statement makes clear that the aggressor and the occupier is Somaliland, yet despite this, traditional elders of the region are open for talks so long as Somaliland troops withdraw, and this has not been seen, of course. In fact, there's been an all-out war. Now, many have been waiting for the federal government's response to all these things happening because fighting began on Monday, the conference statement was released on Monday, and there was just absolute silence from Mogadishu, absolute silence from Villa Somalia. Now, after hours of anticipation, finally Mogadishu decided to make a statement regarding the matter. The President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud sent condolences to the victims of violence in the city and expressed regret that the violence is being utilized to settle political disputes in the country. Ultimately, he argued that the constitutional duty of his government is to protect the unity and integrity of Somalia, and as a result, he warmly welcomes the wishes of the SSC people, while simultaneously calling for calm from both sides. Now, some have criticized his statement for not going far enough, because he failed to even condemn the actions taken by the Bihi regime to attack schools and hospitals with mortar strikes, which breaks all social, international laws, international norms, even religious laws. And every conceivable righteous person, any moral person understands that bombing a school, bombing a hospital, bombing a residential area, it's immoral, it's wrong. And if Hassan Sheikh is the president of Somalia, which he is, he ought to be condemning such large-scale violence, not trying to be a man in the middle and say, you guys chill, let's just stop. No, we can't do this because there's clearly an aggressor. And the president has a duty bestowed upon him by the constitution to protect the Somali people and to protect Somali unity. And what is clear is Hargeisa is advocating for secessionism. And if Hassan Sheikh is in any way ready to defend Somalia and its integrity and its sovereignty, he must first protect the people of the SSC. I'm not calling for violence. What I'm calling for is for Hassan Sheikh to take the lead and accept the wishes of the SSC people while trying to create dialogue between the two sides. And what I mean by accept is create an outline a roadmap on how the SSC region will now become a federal member state. Say it very clearly with chest. Say today, I accept that this region is going to be a federal member state. I think that simple statement will be monumental to the advancement not of the self-determination of the SSC region, but also the unity of Somalia. Now, furthermore, despite a speech made by the Interior Minister, Ahmed Fiqi, the federal government has not given any clues, as I've said right now, as to how it governs the SSC region or how it will rectify the issue. In fact, both officials failed to even mention the name Somaliland at all. So let's actually turn to Somaliland. What does Somaliland have to say about the current developments? Well, Hargeisa has consistently accused traditional elders in the SSC region of being, quote, terrorists. Last week, speaking at an event inaugurating a new year for the National Youth Fund, Behe stated the very people who planned and carried out targeted killings in Laascaanood city had simultaneously put a long-term strategy to blame the slaying on Somaliland in order to ignite violent protests and civil uprising of the kind that bursts into the street late last month, he said. Terrorists, he stated, assumed varying identities, driving their agenda home behind many guises in order to bring down the unity of Somaliland and a government that stood between them and their planned takeover of the region. Now, on Monday, the Somaliland regime released a statement in which it claimed that it came under heavy gunfire from what it described as, and I quote, armed terrorists mobilized by anarchist traditional elders in Laascaanood. Hargeisa claimed it had successfully thwarted this attack. Now, following this, an emergency meeting was held by the cabinet of Somaliland, led by the leader of Somaliland, Musa Bihi, resulting in a press statement in which Hargeisa claimed to support peace and dialogue to resolve the current impasse. But they've also claimed that they're currently fighting what they call an international terror group in Laascaanood, despite no evidence for such claim. On Tuesday, Somali regional authorities claimed that forces from neighbouring federal state of Puntland were deployed in Laascaanood to fight alongside local fighters, more specifically PSF, which is Puntland Security Forces based in Bosaso. And this has been, of course, denied by Puntland regional government in all levels. The Separatist Information Minister claimed the Somaliland force had captured POWs, including known terrorists, members of the Puntland Security Forces, but surprisingly released them on the same day, which has left many confused, to say the least, and many scratching their heads. Why would you detain these people that you're claiming to be terrorists, but then release them back into the community? How are they terrorists then? You know, surely as a government you ought to be investigating these terrorists that you're claiming to be fighting. Now, what has been the globe's reaction from this? Well, the UN Human Rights has called for an independent investigation into the civilians killed by Somaliland authorities in the Seoul area and Laascaanood in general. And in a joint statement, international partners, including the United Nations, many of Somalia's allies in Europe and the Middle East, have called for restraint and dialogue, which has enraged some Somalis as the international community stopped short of condemning the aggressors in this war of attrition, because this is a war of attrition. It's an attempt to weaken the identity of the SSC region. It's an attempt to weaken the identity of unity, the sense of unity amongst the Somali people. Now, ultimately, the war and the conflict in the SSC is a new leaf in the Somali political paradigm or the Somali political arena. It seems as though the secessionist narrative is at the brink of collapse the way it is now, and the government of Hassan Sheikh has a golden opportunity to take the first step in 3 decades to edge ever closer to a concept of a unified Somalia. His steps have remained quiet and slow so far, and has received condemnation from many of the Somali political actors across the country. And the people of SSC were forced to face 24 hours of war before the president of the Somali Republic decided to even make a short statement in which he even refused to condemn the aggressor. If Hassan Sheikh wants to make history, if Hassan Sheikh wants to change the course of Somalia like he claims to, he wants to, he needs to recognize the SSC region as they wish, which is a federal member state. Now begin by governing from Mogadishu effectively. Set out a roadmap, set out a bullet point plan, outlining to the Somali nation and people how Villa Somalia, how the federal government of Somalia will implement the wish of the SSC region, and begin the process of integration. Begin the process of integration of the SSC region to become a federal member state. Hassan Sheikh was in charge when Galmudug became a federal member state. Hirshabelle, these were forming. This is his chance to form another one. The SSC is on a chip on Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud's shoulder.